Here, societal structure, institutions, and behaviors seem to be deeply traditional and ingrained, but are in reality dynamic, contested, and fluctuating. Bangladesh, for example, adheres little to traditional social constructs such as caste. With centuries of foreign domination, institutions of sovereign statehood are also newer and less rigid. As a result, they are less durable and effective. In many analyses of contemporary Bangladesh, this informality is most often seen as a challenge at best and otherwise as a crippling Achilles heel. But the view of this phenomenon as necessarily negative is mistaken. It could be argued that it has helped encourage some of the improvements that Bangladesh has made in human development. The country did well in meeting most of the UN Millennial Development Goals, for instance, through greater inclusion of women in the economy and women's empowerment more broadly. While this book does not set out to examine these issues per se, it is also worth noting that these characteristics of informality and dynamism make Bangladesh important and worthy of greater consideration from scholars and the global public. The phenomenon of modern-day extremism, whether with Islamic characteristics or not, is imbued with the fragmented informality that globalization, increased connectivity, and the post-Cold War global political economy have created. Thus, while most analyses of development and politics would suggest that Bangladesh is converging or attempting to converge with the world through the endeavors of the state and attendant stakeholders, it could be argued that the world is in fact converging with Bangladesh. In a world of intense economic competition and growing ecological fears, small states are often felt to be failing their citizens. Bangladesh's informality means that it has lived through and faced many of the world's emerging challenges. Bangladesh is increasingly described as emerging, and it is, in a sense, doing so from unimaginable tribulations in recent centuries, from colonialism to famines to genocides and more. Once seen as being at the wrong end of the Gangetic Plain, Bangladesh now sits at a fulcrum point between the world's two most populous nations, India and China, in the middle of a region that is ever growing in importance. It could be argued that young people in Bangladesh are living a more quintessentially 21st century existence than any group of people anywhere else, emerging rapidly from traditional agrarian existences into more interconnected and more deeply competitive, yet informal and crowded, urban lives. Their reality will come to be the norm for people all over the world. While the world's attention is drawn to the denizens of cities such as New York or Singapore, the reality of our collective future as a species is far more tangibly exemplified by the young people of Ghazipur or Mohammadpur. The anxieties, cultures, and movements that are thrown up by the paradigms of those communities will affect far more people than those of the aforementioned bastions of wealth and magnets of global attention. It is no doubt a challenge writing a book such as this as an outsider, neither a Bangladeshi citizen, nor a Muslim, nor even a scholar of that great world religion. Islam has so shaped the region, governed its people's behaviors, and given faith and guidance to multitudes through hard and less hard times. Of this, I was very aware when writing, researching, and thinking about this book. But here and in other writing, I hope that the perspective of a relative outsider, invested only as a passive observer to tell stories of political significance, can add something to telling the story of the region. However, as the great thinker Edward Said observed in the introduction to his seminal work Orientalism, no one has ever devised a method for detaching the scholar from the circumstances of life.